Rightio, we are on. Hi, everyone. It's been forever since I've been on here. So, how are you all? I've missed you very much. Thank you all for joining us tonight for our spinning yarn session. We got Katrina on with us.
Hello.
No, it's good to be back. So, thank you. So, as always, I'd like to acknowledge the Noongar people in which the country of which I am. I'm a Dawara Muthiti woman, so it's great to be here and have safe passage. And which are you, Katrina? How are you? Where are you from? And where are you at?
Yeah, so my family's Go Mulgal mob from Marbiarg Island in the Torres Straits. We're sort of on the northern part of that, but I grew up on the Gold Coast. Yeah, so Gold Coast is sort of like, yeah, where I've spent most of my life. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, awesome. So must be, still must have always loved that beach weather as well, being down there on the Gold Coast compared to home.
Yeah, we sort of have the best of both worlds. You've got the beach, and then on the other side, we've got that beautiful rainforest, Springbrook and out to Mount Tambourine. Yeah, it's absolutely stunning there. So much nature and, yeah, just absolutely beautiful.
Yeah, that's good. And so thank you for coming on tonight and really yarning about what you do. And I guess I really am so intrigued about, like your profession and your area of study and everything that you have to bring to the STEM conversation. So maybe, yeah, if you could explain a little bit more about what you do and, that side of that industry.
Yeah, absolutely. So at the moment, I'm doing my PhD in industrial chemistry. So what that sort of involves is, sort of like a 3 to 4 year research journey where I get to basically answer questions that no one has answers to. So it's like trying to solve a jigsaw puzzle, but with no rule book and no help at all. Yeah, it's a crazy, crazy journey. And I'm really doing it because I have such passion for it too. It's all about the environment and how we can make things more environmentally friendly for everybody. And yeah, try and find ways to, increase the sustainability and the circular sort of flow of things. So sort of leading into, circular economy, I suppose, is, and green chemistry is the main focus of it. Yeah. So more specifically, I'm developing some natural adsorbents, so made from biopolymers, so things like seaweed and the exoskeleton of insects, and combining that with something that's usually incompatible. So I'm using a special rock called a zeolite. So together, they make this amazing adsorbent that actually take out pollutants from wastewater. So I can not only remove them, but also recover them again for another use. Yeah, so that's like the end goal.
That's so amazing. And I guess there's so many things to unpack from that as well. And I guess you might think, why are we having this conversation? We're talking about the mining industry here. And so why is this such an important component as well to bring to the mining industry?
Yeah, so currently a lot of the practices used maybe aren't so environmentally friendly. So things that require high pressures and high temperatures, which we normally would use, there are greener ways of doing things. They just require maybe a little bit more research, perhaps. And of course, we don't know if it works until someone tries it, right? And a PhD is an amazing way to sort of try out this new research, right? Because someone's got 3 years to sort of solve a problem, right? Absolutely perfect. But who wouldn't want to contribute towards a more sustainable economy where our mining waste is suddenly turned into something very precious? And now we can suddenly use this thing that suddenly didn't have a value, and suddenly we've made this thing very valuable, and we're able to put that back and into the economy and make money from it. So we're not only cleaning the waste, we're reducing the waste that we have, but we're able to convert that into something useful and profitable. Yeah, so that's probably the two main takeaways from that.
That's amazing. And so, like you said before, you're solving problems to things that have never been approached before. So how did this come about? Did you think about it yourself, or do you have a team, or how do you start this journey?
Yeah, so I suppose I've always been interested in science, just like how interesting the world around us is. Like, why is it the way it is? I want to know more. What are the rules of the universe? How does it work? So I think that was the main thing, but also just realizing how important our natural resources are and trying to protect them in the best way that we can. Obviously, we need mining. We need the natural resources that come from the earth. But if we can do it in a more sustainable way, and maybe it costs more money, maybe it doesn't, but it's definitely worth pursuing it if it's greener and it's, better for the economy, definitely.
Yeah, that's awesome. So then taking it all the way back now, because obviously like there's a lot of conversations out there about how do you become more, like how do we as Indigenous people be more involved in STEM? Like how do we start to really contribute to that industry, you know, that space as well? So take us all the way back to like when you were like in high school, or, you know, what really interested, like how did you become so interested in this field?
Well, I think my dad's a bit quirky, like he's really into sci-fi. So I think maybe like having a keen interest in that as a kid, just watching like some really bad CGI with, you know, sci-fi and like crazy apocalyptic situations that would never happen. That's what started it. But then also just, it's just so interesting. Like, how does the world work? Like just wanting to know more. And it's really just that thirst for knowledge, you know, just never stop learning, like ever. Because there's just so much to learn about the world around us. And there are certain laws the universe has put in place, but like what are they and why are they there? You know, maybe we should challenge them. Maybe we should learn more.
Yeah, wow, that's amazing. That's very interesting and kind of intriguing and all of that. So I was going to read a couple of comments here from Lily. Lily, your fellow nerd, Katrina, so she's here with you. And hello to you, Lily, as always. Thank you so much for tuning in. And if anyone's got any questions, any science questions out there, shoot them through because Katrina's here to answer them. And any questions as well with people accessing pathways to the STEM space as well, because you know, you being at QUT and you've been studying a PhD. So how does that all work and how did you get there?
So I think I just knew chemistry was for me. It sort of came to me really easily and I just thought how amazing. I can transform something into something completely different by some discrete chemicals I add in certain conditions. And I can turn, for example, something like vanilla into chili just by some chemical reactions that take place under certain conditions. Like how amazing you can convert something into something completely different. Like how cool is that? How does that work? You know, that's what really got me, I think. So it's just an interest at the start because I was passionate about it, and I think you really have to follow things that you're passionate in, right? Because you're always going to be better in them than anything else. So I just followed my passion, and then I took those subjects when I went into year 11 and 12, and I actually had a really great teacher, chemistry teacher. She was a doctor, so having a really great role model was a good starting point. And then when I became to like apply for QTAC, it was just an obvious choice. Chemistry was for me, and that's what I did. Yeah, absolutely.
That's good. And what about your support systems as well? So you've got like family at home. Was CSIRO really big back there? And what school did you go to?
So I went to Varsity College on the Gold Coast. It's a public school. We had a lot of kids. In our graduating year, we had 300 kids. So very, very large cohort. And this is maybe 8 years ago now. So yeah, so it's probably even bigger now. Yeah. No, it was good. We actually didn't have much in the way of science outreach. So at the moment, I'm involved in 3 outreach programs that go to schools and talk to kids about STEM. And I love talking about science to kids. It's amazing. It's so much fun. And you can just see how excited they are to be doing science, all these really cool science experiments. Yeah, like I really wish we had that. And I think that is so valuable, you know, having that sort of thing in community and even doing it online as well, like finding a way to get motivated and talk to people who are doing PhDs and who are really into it. Because wouldn't you rather learn from someone who's really passionate about it? And passion is infectious, right? When someone's really, really keen about it, you're going to get really keen about it too. Yeah, it sounds good.
I can tell that you just absolutely love it. So, so tell me about like the kids as well. That like you engage with them a lot. Like, how effective has that been? And have you seen like many Indigenous kids there as well?
When I went through, there really wasn't anyone else. It was very Gold Coast, which is pretty much quiet. I mean, there was a few different other a few other people around. But yeah, it was very, very Gold Coastian, if you know what I mean. If you're from Gold Coast, you probably know what I mean.
That's good. And so then with your outreach teams now as well, like are there certain schools that you target, or is it particularly on the Gold Coast? Oh, so we seem to have lost. Katrina, are you there? Can you hear me? Hey,
Hello?
Can I just say, yeah, can you hear me?
Yes.
Can I just say it's not my internet now because mine is sorted. So I'm like super fast around here these days. But sorry, going back to that, what I was asking is that when you're talking about, dang it. Okay, well, Katrina's got some, she's back in. Let's give her a couple of minutes. But if there's anyone out there with more science questions, definitely swing them through. If you have science questions for your children, your family, she could probably definitely answer them. So she's at university, she's at QUT studying a PhD in industrial chemistry. So she's an amazing woman doing a lot of things with water quality. So it'd be really good, you know, she's interested in the mining industry. She does do a lot of work there as well, but it's more about extracting better quality water from wastewater. So any questions, bring them in, definitely. So Katrina, you there? You can hear me? All good?
Yes, cool. I think I'm back.
I understand your pain. Okay, cool. So I've got one question here from Lily. Do you have consultation with the TOs in regards to environmental issues or situations on your website? Our elders and TOs have amazing cultural knowledge. If yes, how is this experience?
So I've had, you know, a little bit of relations with mainly the kids from Torres Strait Islands. I did a Cairns trip last year where I did basically an outreach. I went to 4 different schools and we went and talked to kids about science, and it was, yeah, absolutely amazing to talk to them about that. But yeah, like I would love to talk to more community members because there are such simple things you can do in your community that just fix your water problems. Yeah, and I see things all the time about, you know, the water's a weird colour, the water's turned brown. You know, there are such simple things you can do to actually fix that yourself. And it's, you know, it's always going to be a problem being in remote communities. Well, maybe it won't always be a problem. It really shouldn't be a problem. We should all have equal access to infrastructure like clean water. That's a basic human right. But, you know, one day I'm sure that it will be better. And I would love to talk to community about how they can fix their water, you know, pretty quickly and very, very cheaply. Just a simple, like there's some knowledge that, like scientific knowledge that sometimes, you know, may not be like passed down to community because you just be taught it, you know, in every day. But yeah, I would love to absolutely talk to community about that. Yeah, and I would love to share knowledge. You know, I think sharing knowledge and communicating, you know, about experiences and about historical things that are so important, you know, passing down tradition.
Yeah, I love it. I can just like, I love your passion. It's so amazing. It's such a crucial space as well. Like you said, like water quality, like that's a basic human right. So how do we get it right, really? So you're studying at the moment. You're doing your PhD. So all this knowledge, all this IP, how are there pathways there that you can start to share this knowledge out to communities? Like how high is your engagement with like, I don't know, like councillors or mayors or, you know, those types of people that can actually make decisions?
At the moment, I'm not in contact with anyone like that. I do have some involvement in the coal seam gas industry with Arrow Energy, but predominantly my research is focused on developing the proof of concept for how these adsorbents work, because obviously there's a lot of trial and error that goes into them, and it also depends on the type of polluted water you're trying to treat. Yeah, so things are going to work differently in different situations. For example, you might put it in something that's come directly from, you know, an iron ore refinery, or it could be something from an aluminum refinery, or again, you know, gold, or it could be landfill leachate, and all of these have different characteristics, and you need to be able to tailor the adsorbent to suit that particular process. So there's a lot that comes into the scientific side of things. Yeah, absolutely.
And how far along are you as well with developing like these solutions? Are they ready to go, or are you still kind of testing them?
So I'm still sort of testing them. They definitely work. I've done the concept side. It's just I'm doing a thesis by publication. So that means I have to have a minimum of 3, but probably more papers published. Yeah, so that's going really well. And I've already made some really good progress on that. I'm about 2 years through the PhD, and it's about 3 to 4 years sort of program. Yeah, I mean, with the COVID-19 thing, things sort of draw out a little bit longer than they usually would. Yeah, but that's fine. I'm having fun while I'm doing it. So.
Yeah, definitely. Well, thank you for making the time and joining us. You sound very busy and a lot of things going on there. So I've just got a couple of questions here as well. Hey, hello to Karen. She's saying amazing. So thank you very much for tuning in, Karen. Sam as well, Deadly Bala. So he's always here as well, which is really good. Thank you for your support. A very inquisitive son that's keen to make things as well. So it's good to kind of, how do we start to harness those interests as well? Hanea, so she just asked a question. Are you able to explain the filtration system from Colombia? So, yeah, so this was Andrea from BWise. So we had the pleasure of heading over there and learning a little bit more about what she's doing as well with the water systems and how she's filtering the water that's coming off, the waste from industry there. So there was issue around like heavy metals still being in the system. So how is your yarn with her, and what are you kind of planning over there?
So I'm not sure about the specific water filtration that they're using, but I did hear that heavy metals were a problem. And zeolites are really amazing for that, actually, because they have a net negative charge, and they're basically like a Swiss cheese. They've got all this internal surface area, and all that internal surface area is room for pollutants to absorb. So they're amazing. And this net negative charge means that they'll attract all of the heavy metals to the surface. That was actually great because, as you know, opposites attract, and negative's going to pull in all these positive things. So you're going to get all the metals sticking to the inside of this zeolite. So it could be a potential solution. And the great thing is they're very cheap. They're basically under the ground in every single continent on this earth, available in massive abundance, because they were formed during probably the Paleozoic era, like probably hundreds of millions of years ago, when there were volcanoes erupting all the time, and the volcano ash settled in lakes, and they were under pressure and temperature, and then they formed these zeolites, and here we are today. We have them. We use them all the time. They're actually in your laundry detergent, and they're in heaps of things around the house that you wouldn't even think about.
That's amazing. I'm so, sitting here blown away, because it's just another world that, that I'm not really kind of exposed to. So zeolites, you said, in washing powder, like what else is out there, just so people start to kind of get the idea of it.
Yeah, exactly. So even pool water, that's filtered. And zeolites are a great filter. There's one commercially available in Queensland, and can't remember what the actual name is for it, but anyway, it's mass produced, and it's basically what they took out of the ground, and you put it in your pool filter, and it takes out all the bad things. You can turn hard water into soft water, vice versa, sort of thing. And there are heaps of other uses for it too. Yeah, so heavy metals is a big one, and the other one is it's great at actually taking out fertilizer runoff. So think about the Great Barrier Reef. Around the Great Barrier Reef, there are 30 plus basins, which have basically the land has drained into these basins, and then the basins drain into the Great Barrier Reef. Now, farming has increased over the Great Barrier Reef area over the last 100 years significantly, probably exponentially, and everyone is using fertilizer and pesticides, and that runs off into the basins, which run into the Great Barrier Reef, and it causes something called eutrophication, and that is really, really serious, really bad, because it actually causes an algae bloom, because there's all this extra food for the algae to eat, and it's mainly high nitrogen and phosphorus. So these algae bloom and they go crazy. And then they kill all the fish because they're eating all the dissolved oxygen. So the fish die. And you end up with these hypoxic dead zones where nothing can survive. So to prevent this, something that we can do is we can add zeolites because they will take up the ammonia from the wastewater. So that's one thing we can do. They've got it really bad over in the Baltic Basin in Europe. I think we are starting to use less pesticides and fertilizer in Australia and in Queensland. They put in some really good initiatives to encourage the farmers to stop using as much and to try and find out, like, okay, well, what is the right amount that we need to be adding to get the maximum yield for the least amount of fertilizer and pesticides. Yeah.
That's amazing. There's so much knowledge and so much passion. I love it. So great. And so you've got all this knowledge, right? How are you sharing that with the people that need to know?
So currently I'm sort of trying to finish my PhD in a sense. But I think the biggest way I'm sharing is by networking. So I talk to a lot of people and I go to lots of events and I always talk about the research I'm doing. And sometimes I get lucky and I get invited to a different event, or sometimes I get to talk on live Facebook as well, which is really cool. And yeah, I talk to a lot of kids about it, and I really want to try and get them really excited about it too. But in terms of I suppose sharing my research, I really would like to do more of that. And I think I've got to find a bigger platform for it. I think I've been using Twitter a little bit, but I think I'd probably like to use Twitter a little bit more to continue getting the good word out there, do it for the science.
I love it. Definitely such an ed. So what would be the ultimate conference that you could go to?
Oh. Does it have to exist? Can it be one that doesn't exist?
Well, it has to exist now.
Oh, okay. So last year I went to Nato Conference. It's the Native American Indian and Indigenous Studies Association, and it was held in New Zealand last year. It's held in Toronto this year, and I think I would like to go there as an Indigenous woman and present my science to people. Because I went there and there wasn't much science. There was a lot of Indigenous studies, but no one does science in this, in this area who's, Indigenous. And I would love to, I would love to see more. I would love to promote other women who are trying to do science and engineering, in these areas, especially one so important as water quality, Yeah.
Amazing. So was that NASA?
NASA, yeah.
Somebody note that down. Thank you for that. I'm going to read some of these questions because everyone's really fascinated for what you're bringing to the conversation tonight. So thank you so much. So good one from Hanea again. So ask if community ownership projects and how can we harness this ownership? So
So at the moment I own the IP, but I mean these things are not difficult to make. It's hard to make it technically efficient. So you would need to have some sort of trial period. So obviously you make them and you have to change the ratios and things, and you have to test it on, firstly, probably model it on a synthetic waste source, and then you have to use it on a real waste source. And obviously things fluctuate, pH will fluctuate, the amount of, dilution will fluctuate because, rainfall, all this sort of thing. So you have to account for all of that. As far as harnessing the ownership, I'm not too sure. I think you'd have to sign non-disclosure agreements and all that sort of thing, all the commercialization side of things.
Is that you? Sorry, that was me. I apologize. Okay, so and that's so interesting, and I love it that you're bringing this much knowledge to the table as well. Like you said, you went to this conference last year, and there weren't many, Indigenous scientists that are out there or papers in that. So it'd be good to see how your network grows as well, just to see how I can share that knowledge and really kind of bring about something amazing. So thank you, Sam. I've got a comment here from Sam. So I've grown up on a farm as we had to pump out of a river. my father taught me how to find water, how to place your pumps to pump water, and this was all to have for drinking water and for stock. So is that still quite common, or how does that kind of work now?
I think it depends where you are, because in Australia we have the Great Artesian Basin, which is essentially a water table that lies under the ground. We can use that to irrigate, which is probably the main source if you live in that area. So I suppose it really depends where you live. Not everywhere is going to have natural groundwater because that's very, very scarce at the best of times. Yeah, so I think if you have a river, definitely use it. But if not, there are definitely alternative sources. I've seen some really cool stuff done in deserts where they have these big nets up, and the nets are able to capture water from the air, and they basically concentrate that into water just from being in the air, because it's during the desert, it's really hot during the day, but then at night it's really cold. So it's perfect to condense all that water vapor that's just sitting in the air. So that's
is that here in Australia? Oh, sorry, was that here in Australia? Or?
I'm not sure. I don't think so, but it might be.
Yeah. Good one. Okay, cool. We've got a couple more comments here as well. So, Lily, you should talk to Borroloola Mob. They're having issues with water. So, so we can reach out to our contacts there to see where they are. So, in terms of like, you're saying you've got another 2 years as well to go for study. So, what are you going to do after that, or what do you plan? Are you going to keep on studying, or what are you doing?
So I think the loose sort of plan is to finish the PhD. And I don't think it's really should be measured in how much time you have. It should be measured in how much quality the research was. How impactful was your research? Did you, really change something? Did you really shape the way that an industry is? Yeah. So I want to make sure that like it's good quality and I'm happy with it before I leave it and I walk away. Because once I walk away, like, yeah. So the plan is to finish the PhD, is to work in industry for a few years, probably 5 to 10 years, and really understand what is needed in the industry, where the research needs to go, and also to network and to have contacts, because in a university situation, you need to make sure you have revenue and you need to make sure you have relevant, up-to-date research projects that are going to be very impactful. So yeah, I'd like to work in industry, and then I'd like to go back to academia and become a professor, and I'd like to supervise young Indigenous people all the way through their PhDs, and so they can do research and continue the cycle and keep inspiring, because I don't have any other role models in this particular area I'm in. There's really no one else, or in my particular university at least, and yeah, you get the phrase trailblazer sort of thrown around, and yeah, like I really think that just because it hasn't been done before, it doesn't mean it can't be done. You just gotta be the first one to do it. Absolutely. I mean, yeah, I would absolutely love to one day look around and have amazing Indigenous people out there making a real impact in the community and getting to choose what sort of research is being conducted, and it directly affects people as well. Like the research that people do in water gets, informs policymakers to make policy decisions about how our resources get used. And if people don't have that knowledge, they don't have necessarily the power to be able to change the way that the governance is structured. So it's really important that we, as a group, start to move into those high leadership positions, so we can really make impactful change and protect the land, protect what's ours.
Amazing. So inspiring. Thank you so much. So you're saying there as well, so you've got no role models at the moment. So like, how do you find in terms of mentorship and support for you now? Like, who do you look to, and how do you keep your strength and focus in this area?
I've got a few amazing mentors. I think it's good to have mentors. It's really amazing. Yeah, so within my university itself, we have the Pro Vice Chancellor of Indigenous Strategy, who's amazing. There's also a few other people, and definitely my partner is a great source of inspiration. And of course my mum, who's amazing, who supported me through everything. My many, many years of university. yeah, I think I've been studying for 8 years now in tertiary institution. So yeah. So for every young person, you need a mentor, absolutely, because there's things that you just don't learn except by experience.
Definitely.
And know how to recover from them too.
Yeah, totally agree. It's just, it's about getting back up, hey, and having another go. And then in terms of like you sharing that knowledge and also not sponsoring but mentoring younger women or Indigenous people as well, like how do you plan to do that?
So I've been thinking about perhaps getting involved in the AIMS program. So I know that they do things with mentoring high school students. I know CSIRO also has a one for women in STEM. I'd like to get involved in that too. Yeah, I suppose everything just has to line up at the right time. I'd really love to be able to reach out to more people and do it on my own platform. But yeah, again, like it hasn't been done. So how do you do it? There's all these teething issues. But if anyone has any advice, I'd love for you to put it in the comments, please. About how I could perhaps mentor some young people who might be interested in doing STEM. Like I said, I do outreach work for 3 different groups. So I feel like I am sort of mentoring in some way. But I probably could be doing more on like an ongoing basis, I suppose, sort of developing those relationships and sort of evolving, their opinions of the world and, trying to shape it that way.
So amazing. I love it. And so then in terms of like, so this is what my thinking is around culture and STEM. How far is that? Like, are you seeing all of these kind of synergies and practices that are like, oh my God, that's like in culture. That's what we're studying here. What's your knowledge around that?
Yeah. So there's a comment here by Sam, and he's saying that the Don River was full of sand and it was their natural filter. Well, that's perfectly right. I mean, there's things like this that are just known and are passed down. Sand is an amazing filter for getting rid of particulates. And a lot of the times the water's actually okay as long as the heavy metals are taken out, and it's just sort of like left with a brown color. All you'd have to do is put it through activated carbon, which is basically anything that's burned, like any organic matter. So if you burn, coconut husk or a tree and you had activated carbon basically left over, if you crash that up, that is a perfect filter to get rid of that, the particulates in that brown color. And sand, would work perfectly as well. So I'm actually in contact with Deadly Science as well. Thanks, Lily. I've been, I met them at GARMA actually. I've been following Deadly Science for a while on Twitter because I just think it's amazing. Like, what an amazing project to be able to send books out to remote communities. But I actually got to meet Corey at GARMA, and that was a really great connection to make. And I'd really like to support them as well, doing wonderful things in the community.
Totally, so good. So another couple of comments there as well. So thanks, Sam. Always awesome, Katrina. Love your knowledge. We got #Law Spirit Win. Wow, hypoxia is bad juju for anything. And as well, PhD, hope to see you in Parliament, EPA. That'll be exciting. What else do we have there?
Absolutely. I actually did go to Parliament once. I was asked to talk to them about the coal seam gas situation. I got to talk to a few ministers and ministers of Parliament, I suppose, which was really great. Like it was really great to talk to them about it, like give them my perspective. Some of them were more receptive than others, I think. You can only talk to people so far. At the end of the day, it ends up being up to their opinion. But we definitely need more scientists in Parliament because politicians shouldn't be the one making the decisions about science. It should be the scientists making the decisions because we know best.
Not biased, but yes, informed decisions, definitely. Oh, what else have we got there? Toronto, yeah, nice one. Like Toronto. So are they? Yeah, it'd be great to see if you can get over there as well to Toronto this year, if we start flying. But if not, next year. So is it a yearly conference? That one is.
Yeah, I believe it is a yearly conference.
Yeah. Oh. Okay. Hanea was saying that there's a water project by Paddy Mills, has a similar one to the desert one as well. So that might be a contact for you as well if you want to do anything there. Have you thought about doing a helpful session online for parents who are homeschooling to do fun activities with their kids? Thank you, that's an excellent idea.
That would be awesome. There's a lot of things you can do just from things in your kitchen sink, basically. Yeah, household chemicals and things like that. I've definitely done many experiments with kids using the simplest of things. One of them was using yeast and then adding different sources of sugar and carbon and seeing which ones generated the most carbon dioxide, because that's a chemical reaction, right? And then they have to predict which carbon source would work better, whether it was icing sugar, caster sugar, brown sugar, or flour, something like that.
It's a no mess guaranteed experiment, hey?
Exactly. And then you have a balloon on top, and then you can see it fill up with gas, which is carbon dioxide. So you're learning the chemical reaction, and you're also making predictions. And that's science, essentially. And then science isn't finished until it's done. So you have to communicate your results. So yeah, I think that would be a great idea. Yeah.
That's excellent. And so you were saying you do some live presentations on your Facebook and that as well. So do you have a channel or anything that people can access, or do you reckon that you'll put something together?
I'll probably put something together shortly. Perhaps either Facebook or Twitter. I suppose Facebook might be a little bit more accessible.
And we're happy to share as well if you want to send us over some links, if you do it on Twitter or something. But yeah, I agree. I think Facebook is definitely much more accessible, but it's up to you.
Yeah, not everyone has Facebook, but the majority do, I think. And Twitter is a little bit harder to do live videos. I believe so.
Yeah, definitely. So just some other comments here as well. So so true. So we live on the Don River, full of sand. Yeah. So going back to your sand natural filtration again. When I pumped, it was shown how to make a spear to place in the sand to be able to pump the water out without pumping sand. Hard to explain as I was taught, and I modified stuff to work with my dad or for my dad. We always had good, clean, filtered water to pump into our storage tanks. So that's really good. And a question here as well. So Lily, my son wants to be a meteorologist. We love deadly science. You'd be amazing. So any advice there for meteorologists or pathways to that career?
I would like to be a meteorologist. That's fantastic. We definitely need more people to be involved in that. So if you are, I think you should probably introduce them to what a scientific journal is, at least to get a sense of like how research is communicated, because that is probably one of the biggest parts of science. It's fine if you do the science and you have all these great results, but unless you communicate it, then it's not really important, right? Because you haven't told anyone what you found. I mean, yeah. So I think sort of doing a bit more research and maybe talking to people, maybe taking him to museums or talks. Sometimes QUT does talks, and they'll have a special person who is a specialist, and you can get you can listen to the talk, and then afterwards you can ask questions. There's also Pint of Science. I'm not sure if you've heard of Pint of Science, but they are a student-run, student-led type, or more like civilian-run, civilian-led, but it's sponsored by CSIRO, and they get talkers to come in from all different industries, and they talk about their topic that they're researching. So the people who are talking are real scientists and engineers, and they're very passionate about what they do. So I've been to talks about artificial intelligence, about nuclear energy, about, the future of sustainable living, about, artificial sustainable plastics and that sort of thing. So yeah, there's definitely lots of things you can do, but I think starting to get them used to the community and networking is probably the first step. And then also reading about the current up-to-date research that's being done, which is through the scientific journals, or perhaps even reading a review article might be a good place to start, because they're usually very generalized and they link you off to all the other different subtopics. Yeah, I think that would be a really, really great place to start.
That's awesome. That's awesome suggestions. And I guess, really linking it back to community and people who live in remote and rural areas, and English being their second or third language. Do you know anything that's available for, for people and children out there?
Yeah, so I know that there's quite a bit done like on YouTube about things you can do sort of in the house. I know that there's a few mentorship groups. Which question is this one? Yeah, so I think there's a bit you can do. I think it also depends on the amount of time that they're willing to put into reading the resources. And I mean, I definitely learn better by doing, not necessarily by reading. So I think by setting up an experiment and having a go at that, and then trying to backtrack and learn actually, hey, what actually happened during that? What can I gain from that? Or maybe what could I do differently? Yeah, so definitely hands-on makes a difference with the learning thing. And usually if it doesn't go right, you're probably going to learn more than if it did go right anyway. So I certainly do anyway.
Yeah, definitely. And so what about women as well? So all the students, say, for operators or whichever, like if people wanted to kind of go into that, STEM field now, especially, when I'm thinking about automation and everything, what do you know, like in terms of like supports through to university and all of that kind of stuff? Like, do you see that often where you are, or, are there things being developed to help people who are older students?
So you're talking mainly about people coming from school or mature aged?
Yeah, so mature age students.
Oh, okay. I know that QUT does reserve, or actually all universities reserve a certain portion of their intake for mature age students. So if you are, you probably have a really good chance of getting in anyway, because there's already spots that have been allocated to you. And I also think you have a very good advantage. So I went through with a few mature age students, and they actually did a lot better than people who were coming as school leavers, and not just better in general, just being focused, knowing how to study, because it's fine to sit in the lecture, but knowing how to study is half the battle. And that's something you only learn by experience and trial and error. And everyone studies differently, which is the other thing. So I think you actually have a very good advantage. And after lectures, it's very common, to see people staying back and talking to the lecturer. And, you may not necessarily be doing that if you've come from school. You might be a little bit more hesitant to engage with the professor. But, if you're a little bit older, you've got a bit more experience, you're probably more likely to talk to them. And then if you talk to them, you never know what could happen. You could get put on as a sessional academic in a research lab. So, there's nothing to lose at all. In fact, there's everything to gain. So you may as well go for it.
The best. That's amazing. Thank you. So question here as well. So, from Lily. Thank you. What are your thoughts on CSIRO, and do you aspire to do any research, etc., with them?
So I love CSIRO. How amazing. They made Wi-Fi. Like, we're using Wi-Fi right now, and I bet all you are too. So, what's not to love? I mean, they're also on the front line with the coronavirus pandemic, trying to work on some cures for that. So I would love to do research with them in the future. I think, as far as a government science agency goes, they're pretty good. I mean, they could have put a patent on the Wi-Fi, but they didn't. So everyone has Wi-Fi.
Note to self, hey, when you start developing all of your stuff. Hannah, so Wastewater Conference as well in Adelaide every year. Have you heard of that one?
I actually have. I know that it's quite expensive to attend. yeah, I was actually looking at registrations. I think it was like something like $4,000 for one person, something like in that sort of range. But yes, I'm aware of that conference. It would be great to go there because that's definitely my jam.
Amazing. So I think Hannah will send you some details there as well for that one. So she's a good woman to know. So a comment from Jenny. Thank you, Jenny. The AIM program, mentor program, is fantastic. I was at AIM mentor for 2 years while I was at university studying geology as a mature age Indigenous student. And you get the sense of pride when the students progress and further their studies as well. So that's it's lovely to hear, Jenny. Thank you so much for your feedback, because that's the question I just asked, is around, you know, mature age students and, you know, how, not easy, but, you know, it is kind of quite difficult, and also, I guess, intimidating as well, being a mature age student amongst, you know, a field of young, intelligent people. So yeah, that's really good to know. So maybe as well, like, do you have any questions to Jenny around like AIM mentorship or anything like that, Katrina?
Well, I would probably just like to ask, how long did you have a relationship with the student for, and like, are you still in contact? Like, is it like an ongoing thing? Because I think that sort of once you learn who someone is, and you know, you really actually want to keep in contact, like, yeah. I think that'd be something I'd like to ask Janine. Thank you.
Yeah, it's a really great question. Hannah as well. So I also have the First Nation Indian band networks, and they have some interesting projects as well. So are you in touch with them over there? So the First Nation Indian?
No, I'm. This is the first time I've heard of them. So it's a music band, or?
No, I think it'd be, I don't know, maybe Hannah, you can explain a little bit more, but she'll definitely be in touch with some contacts. She's very, she's got a lot of contacts internationally, so she'll be able to help you out there with some things there. So going back then, so, you know, we've talked a lot about mentorship and everything there, and, you know, I guess, you know, advice that you'd have for younger people who are keen to kind of learn more. And I know now, like, you know, moving online because of COVID and everything else, like, what would be a bit of advice with people staying disciplined? You know, you've been studying for 8 years now, and has that changed because of COVID? Like, you brought everything online. Is it better? Is it, you know, how has that disrupted your study?
Yeah, so I think for me, routine is everything. So I wake up, you know, I get ready like I'm going somewhere, but I don't go anywhere. I'm here. I'm working from home, but I at least pretend to get ready, because it sets your mindset into, okay, it's time to work now. Or else, if you sit here in your pajamas, you're probably not gonna think that you're in work mode. So for me, it's just about tricking my mind. Okay, we're getting ready now to work. Yeah, and then sort of plan your day, have a schedule, set, you know, half an hour aside or however long it takes, and plan your week out on a Monday morning. Sit down with a coffee or a tea or whatever you do, and yeah, I allocate time for doing specific tasks, and then have the goals that you want to get done, and then try and work towards them. And then the next week you just roll it over and start again. It's okay if you don't get them all done, but when you do tick things off, you feel good. And it's good to have, I suppose, a reward system in place for yourself. You know, like, if you get this done, then you can buy something online, you know. whatever it is.
That's very dangerous advice.
Well, for me, it's you know, maybe putting on a face mask or something like that, you know. But I think self-care is really, really important. It's never been more important to make sure that you.
Oh, so Katrina's just kind of buzzed out there for a little bit, but thank you all for your questions, and keep coming.
You are picking up.
Are you there?
I think we're back.
I feel your pain. It's so painful, but I'm glad to have you back. So I know you just kind of went off again, but if everyone's got any advice or any other last questions for Katrina, let us know, and then she'll definitely get back to them as well. Yeah, so very knowledgeable. Do you ever get to go to schools? Do you ever get to go and talk to students in our high schools?
Yes, I talk to a lot of students in high schools about, careers. So I do things with Wonder of Science, who are an outreach organisation. They go to schools in the area and talk to kids about science. I also do things with the Ujaru unit, who are through QUT, the university I'm with. And we talk to Indigenous students about pathways into university and, explaining my story, if I can do it, you can do it. Absolutely. Like, we're all in this together. And I also do things with widening participation STEM. So that's actually going to low socioeconomic schools and doing science workshops with them. And I would love to do more in, remote communities. It's just the, the travel situation at the moment probably isn't making that easy. But if anyone has any connections to remote schools that would be interested in having an interview or me just talking a little bit about why I love science, I'd be more than happy to share my passion with them, no matter what age they are, really, or where they are. But yeah, please pass on some details if you do know anyone who would be interested.
Definitely, you've got such great depth and knowledge as well, and so much passion to make it happen. So yeah, definitely, I'm sure you'll be along to talk to some schools shortly. But I was always asking for online content as well. So I guess when you start to develop that, it'd be great to keep on sharing that along, because I think that could really get a lot of parents to understand science as well and how practical it is for children to access it. What other services they have there, but also especially the people that live in remote and rural communities. I think just that the accessibility to consistent education and all of that, I think that's the biggest trouble, because I think children are excited about all these experiments, like they're so awesome, and things happen, but it's like, how practical is it for them to actually access it?
Yeah, absolutely. That's definitely going to be one of the biggest hurdles. I mean, it would be awesome if I could just teleport there. I would be more than happy to teleport to a bunch of schools and give a bunch of speeches and meet people.
Yeah, hello? Definitely. And so then over the last 8 years as well, how have you found like the curve in STEM? Like, has there been like a rapid increase in that, or what do you think?
In people in STEM,
like people in STEM, like children, but also like people that are at university.
Yeah. So, do you mean just like in general, or in the events that I'm involved in?
Yeah, in general.
Yeah. So I think that there is sort of a stigma and like a stereotype that science is only for people who are top of their school, top of their grade, for really, really smart people, and that's wrong. You don't have to be the smartest person. You just have to be able to work hard and be passionate about it and just find what works for you, because everyone is different. Absolutely. And, in my field, it's predominantly, white males. And, one day it won't be like that. We're starting to get a lot more girls coming through, and definitely from, non-Caucasian backgrounds, which is fantastic. But we need to raise those women up into being leaders and try and help them, support them to be better and to, change those statistics. Because science is going to be needed in the future. We need more scientists, definitely, out of all the industries. Well, just STEM in general, really, Yeah.
Definitely. I think that's excellent. And so is there like, pardon?
Oh, it's good to get kids when they're young, If you get them when they're, young and they're excitable, I find that they're so much more excited. But sometimes when they get to high school, they sort of, they're not as excitable about it, and they don't have that passion that maybe would have been there if you sort of got them interested younger. So yeah, I'm a big believer in, primary school STEM, but as well as supporting, the older kids through with, the more harder, more complicated assignments. But I think it's needed the whole way through, but definitely try and get that passion and that actual fun part when they're younger. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think really involving the parents as well, because, you know, they can be excited about STEM and that at school, but when they go home, what does that look like? Like, you know, is there support for that as well? Is that just as exciting and all of that? So I think that's definitely an important piece there. So any last questions? We've got 5 minutes to go. Was there anything else that you, like a message that you really wanted to get out there tonight, Katrina? Like anything for people who wanted to come into STEM, or something that you're truly passionate about?
Probably just that, you know, you're not alone, and if you really want to do something, you do it. You find a way to make it happen. There is a lot of resources out there, and a lot of people who are willing to support you and mentor you and help you. Sometimes you just have to ask, and you just have to find those people. And sometimes you may not know them. They may not come from somewhere that you would traditionally think. But yeah, I think that, you know, putting your mind to it and working on your goals, breaking them down one by one, yeah, there's no better feeling. And you definitely can do it. Whatever it is, you can do it.
Amazing. Thank you so much. And I think that applies for everyone, really. It's not just about STEM or anything that's difficult. It's like it's your own kind of life learning that you can definitely do it. So that's amazing. Yep. So last comment there from Sam, like that's awesome, Katrina, as to get our Indigenous kids into these programs as well. So yeah, like you said, we're going to need scientists in the future. I went to a conference where they spoke about, mining on the moon. How realistic is that, and what do you think about that?
It is sort of realistic, and I'll tell you why. Because no one actually owns the moon. It's an astral object, and no one owns it. So the first person there, they own it. You know what I mean? So same with an asteroid. If an asteroid had pure plutonium or uranium, some precious metal, if you land there, then it's yours for the taking. You just have to get it back to Earth, I suppose. That's the downside. And it's going to be very, very expensive, but it's probably going to be cheaper than mining in Antarctica, perhaps. So, you know, Antarctica also, no one owns it, because we know that there's a whole bunch of uranium under Antarctica, but we can't mine it because, you know, it's unsafe for the polar bears and all the ecosystem there. But if it's an asteroid, we'd like to hope that nothing lives there. I mean, something could live there, hypothetically. So, yeah, I mean, it definitely could be a real thing. We're not too far away from that sort of belief system. And I think if you want to get into that, SpaceX is doing lots of things in that space. So, yeah, probably watch that space. I wouldn't be surprised if we are mining upwards, or the moon one day. Yeah. I don't think there's much on the moon, really, like as far as resources. Who knows? Maybe there is.
Who knows? Who knows? So we've got a last comment here from Jenny. Only while I was at uni, so this is in response to your question then as well. So when I was at uni, so with this mentoring, I was a mentor for the year 11 and 12 students. Watching their confidence improving over the 2 years is mind-blowing. They were really shy and reserved at the start, and by the time they were ready to finish schools, they were gleaming with positivity and an I-can-do attitude. That's awesome. I wish I was able to keep in contact to see how they progress after school, but that wasn't to be, unfortunately. So, but that's good to know. You know, like you said, mentoring is very important. I think now that we're all kind of connected through, you know, Facebook and LinkedIn and all of that, I think it might be a bit more easier for us to keep in contact with people. So,
absolutely. I think it's also that, you know, self-gratification that, you know, like you were able to do something for someone else, and, you know, you've made a difference in someone else's life, and some, you know, it might seem like a small way to you, but I'm sure to them it was a huge difference.
Yeah, definitely. Well, you have been amazing tonight. Thank you so much for all of your knowledge. You know, you've really inspired me. You've inspired, you know, all these other mob on here as well. So thank you again. We look forward to seeing you up on these conference stages, and some more, you know, content as well coming out on your Facebook and all of that as well.
Great. Thank you so much for having me. And yeah, have a great week, everybody. Thank you for having me.
We'll see you again soon, Katrina. Have a good night. Hey, stay safe and stay deadly.
Thank you. See you.
See ya. Thank you.